All your weather coverage on this wonderful Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024. And in today's weather forecast, we're going to be talking about excessive heat building across the west, a cool down continuing across the east, an active weather pattern across portions of the southeastern U.S. over the next few days here this week, and the return of a ring of fire weather pattern across the United States, which could bring more damaging thunderstorm complexes to portions of the United States. We're going to be diving into everything that you need to know with that and the tropics at the end of this action-packed video. So make sure to give the video a like down below if you do like it. Make sure to leave any comments, questions, and concerns below, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you can have more of these weather forecasts in the future as we do these every single day on this channel. So looking here at the visible satellite imagery here, you can actually see where the active weather pattern is across portions of North America and the United States, stretching from the mid-Atlantic down into the southeast and the southern U.S. We do also have some thunderstorm activity up here into parts of the upper Great Lakes region and the upper Midwest as well. Very dry out west here in the western United States, and that is because we have a big ridge of high pressure out there. Here are the heat alerts across the west. We have in orange heat advisories, in those purple shaded colors, those are excessive heat warnings, and those pinks up here into Idaho and portions there of Oregon, those are red flag warnings with dry soil and heat combining for some higher fire weather concerns across those areas. Now here is the ridge of high pressure, and you can see it here, big donut hole out west. This is the area that we are continuing to watch for excessive heat and humidity. We have a little bit of a dip in the jet stream across the east. This is what we call a trough, and this is bringing nice, refreshing, cool air to the eastern United States here at this present time. And this afternoon, high temperatures are reflective of that. Out west, look at all the heat out here, places like California, Nevada, Arizona, even up here into Montana, and getting into the 90s, maybe even the triple-digit mark, upper 90s into places like southern Alberta and southwestern Saskatchewan, Canada, and then a lot of 70s and 80s across the east. A little bit of heat though for the southeast coast down here into places like Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Florida, and those heat index values near the southeast coast this afternoon, when factoring in the moisture levels in the atmosphere, could push those values into the 100 to 105 Fahrenheit degree of range here into those areas. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. A couple areas of some thunderstorm activity that could get a little feisty this afternoon and evening. One over here into portions of California and western Arizona, level 1 out of 5 marginal risk in the dark green. Another area here from northeast Iowa into far northern Illinois and far southern Wisconsin. And then a third area over here into Virginia, portions of southern Maryland and North Carolina. And that is mainly going to be for wind and hail. The tornado threat is extraordinarily low. So this afternoon, those pop-up showers and thunderstorms, the peak heating of the day, will lead to those again today across much of the southeast, so we could have another thunderstorm chance for a lot of us down here this afternoon. Thunderstorms start to fire up from Iowa into southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, stretching over into Michigan as we go into the evening. One or two of these storms could pose a risk for 50, 60 mile per hour winds and some quarter-size hail. And then we could see the same thing over here, maybe a microburst threat with some very strong winds over into California, Nevada, or western Arizona as we go into the evening. And then watch, as we go into early Wednesday morning, we lose the instability in the daytime heating as that sun sets here. The deeper we go into the night in the morning hours, and the coverage and intensity of those showers and storms will wane as well. So looking at the rainfall amounts going through your Wednesday morning commute, the heaviest from coastal Texas and southeast Texas through to the Dixie Alley here, the southeast coast, all the way up here into the mid-Atlantic coast regions. Could be seeing some pockets of a ½ inch to an inch of rain, maybe locally over an inch of rain in some of these areas to see repeated rounds of storms over the next 24 hours. And then some lighter amounts up here into places like Iowa, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and Michigan, where we could squeeze out a quarter to a ½ inch of rain with a couple storms there as well. Very dry out west, I want to add there as well. So looking here at the Wednesday forecast, there's that ridge. It's going to flex its muscles a little bit further to the east into the Rockies as we go into midweek. Thursday continuing to migrate a little bit further to the east. And then on Friday, taking up a lot of residents across the United States here. And look at that trough up here into Canada. That will bring relief from the heat into British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, but also our friends over in the Pacific Northwest by later on this week. So let's look here at your Wednesday afternoon high temperatures. There's the cool weather we've been experiencing. Just copy and paste that over from today to tomorrow. Again, across the eastern U.S., a lot of 70s, a lot of 80s out there. Triple digits and record high temperatures are a possibility up here into Montana and the western Dakotas. Look at that, even 100 degrees potentially into southern Saskatchewan Wednesday afternoon, and 103 into Saskatchewan Thursday afternoon. So you bet records are going to be in play here. 109 even up here into eastern Montana, western North Dakota on Thursday. And then as we go into Friday here, those triple digits sticking around up here into South Dakota and Nebraska. So a lot of heat building across the middle of the country going through the mid and late week period. Well, but what about the precipitation? So going into Wednesday, the active pattern that we've been seeing across the southeast will persist from coastal Texas through the Dixie Valley into the southeast and the mid-Atlantic. Some rainfall though as well for parts of the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast. Very dry out west and in the middle of the country with that ridge. That continues into Thursday. Look at the arrival though of that trough across British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. That'll also be bringing cooler temperatures, but that will come in the form of some showers and storms up here to cool us off as well. That'll continue into Friday as we have a pretty strong low pressure system, 987 millibars, right on the border between Alberta and Saskatchewan, and then more active weather again across the southeast. That continues even into Friday. Here are the rainfall totals, and with that trough coming in across southwestern Canada into especially Alberta, we could be seeing a couple inches of rain up there during the next few days, and then across coastal Texas, Dixie Valley here, all the way through portions of the Carolinas, could be seeing 1 to 3+ inches of rain going through your Friday, July 26th time frame. A little bit of rain up here in the Midwest into the Ohio Valley and Northeast and southeastern Canada, but not as much, and then very dry with that ridge across the middle of the country and much of the west as well. And this is good news that we are seeing some moisture, some much needed moisture across the southeast here, especially with the Carolinas, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama there into Mississippi and North Florida getting some moisture. These are areas that have moderate, severe, and even pockets of extreme drought actually starting to develop. But unfortunately, our friends over in the Rockies and portions of the plains, the drought will continue to expand and intensify with the dry weather over the next several days. Going into the weekend, we have the trough that continues to meander across the Pacific Northwest, bringing much needed relief to our friends in Seattle, Portland, over here, even into the Boise, Idaho area, and areas in Montana that will be into the triple digits the next few days, cooling off over there, and then warming up across the middle and eastern U.S. as we go into the weekend. You can see the most above average will be across the northern plains, upper Midwest, and southeastern Canada. The most below average will be down here into Texas, stretching along the Gulf Coast through Dixie Valley there and into the southeast. Places like the Carolinas and Virginia could be as much as 15 degrees below normal this weekend. So let's identify those temperatures on Saturday afternoon. A lot of 80s and 90s there across the middle of the country. Copy and paste that over to Sunday. That's what we'll get as well. So what you see is what you get here, a typical summertime forecast for the upcoming weekend. And on Saturday, yeah, we see more active weather for the south. That trough up here into now Manitoba, Canada, will be meandering with some rainfall up there. That'll continue into Sunday here. Maybe some storms in the northern U.S. on Sunday. We may have to watch for an isolated, maybe marginal, slight risk day for severe weather with some instability here in the Dakotas and western Minnesota. We'll keep an eye on that as we do get closer to later on the weekend. But here are the rainfall amounts for Saturday, July 27th and Sunday, July 28th. The heaviest will be down here in the Tennessee Valley, the deep south and the southeast. A couple inches there, and then maybe an inch or so of rain into Minnesota and eastern Dakotas, with especially the arrival of that system on Sunday. We'll be watching for that isolated, maybe marginal or slight risk day of severe weather as we do get closer. Now, heading into next week, very interesting weather pattern has been showing up on the ensemble guidance over the past couple of days with consistency. You can see between Monday, July 29th, and as we turn the page through Friday into August 2nd, we're going to have that big ridge of high pressure kind of elongating from Southern California all the way over here into the Arklatex region, and that is going to be putting up a lot of heat across the United States. Temperatures 15 to 20 degrees above normal across especially the central and northern U.S. and much of southern Canada into next week. And this is also going to be bringing some precipitation in areas that need it across the east here, from the Midwest, Great Lakes, down into the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and the southeast, whereas underneath the influence of that ridge in the central and southern plains, in the desert southwest, we will remain pretty dry, and also the New England coast down to the mid-Atlantic coast will be pretty dry as well for much of next work week. Now, we do have to pay attention to the orientation of this ridge and how strong it builds and everything like that. A little bit unknown right now of how strong it'll build, but right now the ensemble guidance from the European models actually showing the northern and northeastern periphery of that ridge up here again into the northern plains and upper Midwest. Now, if that looks familiar, well, if you remember, the airflow around the high pressure system is clockwise. It's always clockwise, and we have to be watching out with this pattern for progressive derechos, much like we did see back in the middle of this month on July 15, 2024, producing 52 tornadoes across portions there from the Midwest into the Ohio Valley and interior New England. That derecho actually produced wind gusts over 90, 100 miles per hour in some isolated areas. And let's look here at some of the individual operational models. So now the European model here, the ECMWF, very strong, if not extreme instability in similar areas to what we saw mid-month, but this is for Monday, July 29th through Wednesday, July 31st. So early next week, from the northern plains into the upper and lower Midwest into the Ohio Valley. That's what that one's showing. The GFS, the American guidance, is really on board with that as well. And the Canadian guidance, the GEM model, is very much in play, maybe just a little bit further north with the instability. But you get the general idea. A lot of the ensembles and the operational model guidance is pointing us toward the potential of that ring of fire pattern, where we have the big ridge in the middle of the country. The northern and northeastern periphery of that here will be producing some severe weather, likely in this orange shaded color somewhere. Not everybody will probably see it in this orange shaded color, but we may have to upgrade this to that red, very likely somewhere in this area. And I would not rule out a derecho to occur again between July 29th and August 2nd in this type of pattern. Now, the AI models over here at the Colorado State University machine severe learning probabilities here showing from Monday, July 29th and into Tuesday, July 30th, toward the end of the month. Low probabilities for now, but in more broad brushed areas of the middle of the country. I expect this to increase to those yellows, maybe those reds. So we may have those like slight and enhanced risk caliber days of severe weather as we do get closer to the end of the month and early August. And you can see here that this is going to be producing some heavier rain. So not only do we have to watch for severe weather, but flash flooding concerns here, as we still have those saturated soils, believe it or not, in areas like northern Illinois, like Rockford, in 2 days saw like a foot of rain pretty much over the last ring of fire pattern, with multiple mesoscale convective systems, or what we call MCSs, that did move through, and that could happen again. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as we go into the end of the month. Turning over to the tropical weather update here, the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, continues to highlight nothing over the next 7 days, and it's really because of the Saharan dust that continues to come off of Africa. You can see by tomorrow, very strong dust plume over here into the MDR, the main development region. That will move over in toward the Windward Islands and places like Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti as we go into Friday. That'll still be strong over here to the Bahamas and Cuba and even Jamaica with that dust as we go into the end of the weekend on Sunday. More dust moving off of Africa into the main development region, although thinner as we go into the weekend. Early next week, we just have these waves of dust moving from the Yucatan through the Bahamas, through the Windward Islands, into the portions of the main development region. So that's really going to kind of limit the storm activity for the tropics there in the North Atlantic over the next couple of days, or really a couple of weeks. But climatology shows as we turn into early August, we really start to ramp up with the chances of getting named storms, tropical storms, hurricanes, major hurricanes, stuff like that. And the experts over there at the Climate Prediction Center agreeing that the first week in August, we may have to watch for something to develop there in the main development region, and then that could actually move into the Caribbean or the northwestern Atlantic. We'll be keeping an eye on that, and the eastern Pacific Ocean will begin to really get active as well toward that first week in August. So to break down the forecast for you, rainy pattern across the southeast United States this week. The ring of fire pattern to set up this weekend, early next week. What that means, we got a big ridge of high pressure in the middle of the country with heat. The northeastern periphery, we're going to be watching for those damaging thunderstorm complexes. Sometimes can be often producing derechos. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Tropics remain quiet through late July, but I think into early August, things will start to turn active in the tropics, especially there in the eastern Pacific, but also in the North Atlantic. So make sure to subscribe to the channel down below so you get the latest weather information right at your fingertips. Make sure to give it a like down below by giving it a thumbs up. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those later on today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Tuesday, July 23rd out there.